Today's photo was taken by Kim Dahl during one of my camera workshops on Cuchimudlo Island. Unfortunately, there was no way this fine bearded dragon was going to shift into the sunlight, so Kim could capture him, or her, in the best possible light. And putting the shot into Photoshop afterwards, it soon became clear that any attempt to simply brighten our hero up, say with a levels layer, is okay up to about there, but taking him any further and then trying to mask the surrounds back to restore the shadows would all end up looking quite artificial, as there's clearly no bright light falling on the lizard that would naturally make him stand out from the background. But what if there was a gentle beam of sunlight falling on the lizard? We already have a few such areas in the picture. What if we create a custom-made pool of light just for our star? Let's give it a go. Firstly, I'll merge that levels layer into the background, which will keep things a little tidy, and then duplicate the background layer as I always do with the keyboard shortcut of Control and the letter J. That's Command plus J on the Mac. Our new ray of sunlight is going to make everything in its path brighter, and a levels layer is just the thing to do that. So we'll give it a name, set it to luminosity so only the amount of light is changed, and to make it easier to ignore everything else, we'll zoom in by holding down the Z key and clicking. And we're now going to set up a white point and black point for the lizard. White point first. I'll bring the white slider up until we're just about losing detail here in the brightest area on the lizard's body. Then I'll bring the black levels down, setting black point, and I'm looking for that point just a little before any of the shadows in here start to block up into black clumps and lose detail. Okay, that's white point and black point, and I'll lift the midtones a fraction as well while I'm at it. Setting those points is all important, because when things are in bright light, as our hero here is going to be, the contrast increases along with the brightness. And if I turn this layer on and off, you can see that that has certainly happened. Now I can sketch the pathway of my sunbeam with the polygonal lasso tool. And this doesn't have to be scientifically accurate. I'm just looking to enclose the general area that would be covered by a beam of sunlight coming from the upper right corner of the picture. And I'm going to include this patch of sun that's already on the fallen tree to help us match the new effect convincingly as we go along. Okay, making sure I have the mask selected, take the paint bucket, choose black paint, and tip it into the levels layer mask, which immediately leaves the background bright and returns the lizard to shadow. That's the opposite, of course, of what we want, so I type Control plus I on the PC, that's Command plus I on the Mac, which reverses the mask. Actually, it inverts it, which is why the letter I is part of the shortcut. Now, wonder of wonders, we can simply turn up the sunshine. Not surprisingly, our light beam is looking a little sharp-edged, but a soft black brush, keeping it to a good size, and remember the bracket keys are just that, we can soon go round and smooth that sharpness away. I'll blend in the area of sunlight we already have here, and I think I'll leave our newly created sunbeam just touching the tree here as it goes past, but obviously we don't want it on the ground down below and behind the fallen tree. Where there's a sunbeam, there's got to be a shadow, and that's the shadow which would be cast by the lizard on this tree trunk. So we'll open a new layer to hold our shadow, and I'm going to make the simplest shadow possible with a soft black brush. Now, as you can see, I'm clearly overdoing that to begin with. No doubt shadow experts would be appalled at my guesswork. But once we start to lower the opacity of the shadow layer well down, and then use a soft-edged eraser to smooth its outline and also to remove it from places where the shadow shouldn't be, I can at least feel I've suggested some shadow, however inaccurate it might strictly be. And last of all, because bright light gives a sharpness of detail that comes with that increased contrast I mentioned before, I would sharpen this image reasonably aggressively. Also, there's a very attractive texture to the wood in the foreground which benefits from that, as well as sharpening up our hero, all of which gives the foreground of the image that extra bite, which after all is what this exercise is really about. So, there we have it. Instant sunlight. Just add Photoshop and stir thoroughly for about 5 minutes.